Hello, hello. Can everybody hear me? Is my microphone working properly?
Yeah, Greg, you sound great.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Cool. We will. Oh, my camera has been bumped severely. There we go. You can blur out the mess of my office up here. We'll get started in a little bit. Renee, do I need to refresh the presentation at all? Did you make changes?
I mean, yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, okay,
I would
here.
wait a second.
I can barely hear you, but I'm going to stop sharing. And you guys get to look at my full screen face for a moment here while I just refresh this PowerPoint to make sure that we have everything new. And Renee, you don't get any more changes. Just kidding, you can get more changes, but you've got 30 seconds. Yes, yes, there we go. Present. All right, trying again. All right, so as people are coming in, just heads up, there is a presentation being shared on through Teams right now. So if you are not seeing it, maybe try leaving and rejoining, or some of those strategies have worked for folks. This presentation is a PowerPoint one, but you should be able to, at least on some devices, like if there are links, you should be able to click on them and interact with them, at least on desktop. There are only a couple of links in this one, as far as I know, as far as I remember. But either way, we will give it probably just another minute since there were a bunch of people signed up for this one, and I just want to give them a shot to get in. Happy Wednesday. Happy, what are we, week 5 now? Week 5? I think so, middle of week 5. Yeah, it seems real late, doesn't it? I see Renee's face. Yeah. It's moving. Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to open up students and start thinking about
All
your
right.
roommates if you're planning on going any further. So that'll be Google Classroom.
All right, we will go ahead and get started. This meeting is being recorded. I have been negligent on the last 2 meetings and need to upload those. I will do that when I upload this one, and I feel like there's a bit of motivation to upload this one, so I will get right on it. But yeah, as is with the other videos, actually, we'll do this one a little bit differently. So usually I ask people to hold questions, but I think this meeting's a little bit different. Just use the raise hand feature. So like I raise my hand right now. If you've got a question that you want to speak up on, just use that. Otherwise, you can type them in chat and we'll address them. There will be time for questions at the end of the presentation as well. And I don't, at least currently, have a screaming toddler this time that's begging me to end the meeting early. So I should be able to stick around this time, which is wonderful. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me open up the chat here so I can watch. Do we have a question right off the bat? Or did somebody accidentally unmute? Cool. So February 5th, mentor call. Happy February. Happy end latter half of build season. Week 5, busy stuff. We obviously had some news today that we'll talk about. So agenda here, the majority of it is going to be focused on the model of play update that we've been talking about for quite a few months now, and then waiting on HQ to kind of give us the go or no go. And so we'll be going into that. And I guess we can jump right in. So if you didn't see the news, California is going to districts. No, well, we are too. But
I was gonna say California is going to districts. What a surprise!
So FRC has announced that they have approved our proposal that we submitted back in November. No, it was October. It's definitely October. To move Wisconsin to the district model of play. We had a series of roundtables during the last competition season in 2024 at both of our FRC regional events about this. I've linked here, which, like I said at the beginning, there is a presentation being shown. You can't see it. Maybe drop and rejoin quickly. But the links here go to two of the blog posts that were posted. The one by headquarters by HQ, and then a one with a little bit more details about the region at our own First Wisconsin blog. And so the one from HQ is real bare, but let's recap a little bit here. So we will be moving to the district model for the 2026 season. It is currently the 2025 season, so no changes for this season. It will play out exactly as it always was going to. So, I mean, it's got a points model this year, which all regionals have a new points model for qualification. So that's a little bit different, but I'm not going to go into that much at all here. But 2026, we will be moving to the district model, which means we will have smaller local events, more of them in Wisconsin. Your registration fee will go towards 2 district events as opposed to 1 regional event. At here right now, we plan on, unless we see some crazy growth between now and next August, or this August, I guess, 4 district qualifier events. So you can, if you are unfamiliar, you can kind of equate those to regional events, just smaller and in smaller venues. And then spread throughout the state. So the intention is not to just put 4 events in Milwaukee, just clearing the air there. We've talked about this a few times, but putting it out there. And we will have a bid process, which we will talk about in the latter half of this presentation, where teams or communities can put in an intent to bid to host an FRC and or FTC event. We already do this for FTC, but we're adding FRC to this too, and we'll talk about that later. And then those 4 district qualifiers will then qualify you for a district state championship. Unless it's changed, as far as I know, we have not decided on a location or even more like a venue at this point. So that's still part of the process moving forward. Now that we have been given the okay by HQ, we can start kind of digging into some of these other details. So in the end, 5 events in Wisconsin this year, or this upcoming season, so 2026, so next year. Sorry, I'm not trying to confuse you here. Along those lines, so we're going to talk about it today, a lot of opportunities for your community, your team members, your parents, your mentors to get involved with the First Wisconsin District. A big part of this has been turning us into a community of teams that work together, that build up our own success. So this will rely on us to make it successful here. So a fun thing that we're going to do this summer is, even though we're still in this regional model, like I said earlier, First changed how champs qualification works for the 2025 season. There was a blog post about that, I think before the season started. It's all running together at this point, that explained how the point system works, but it gives us a very easy way to host a unofficial 2025 First Wisconsin State Championship. So June 14th at Sheboygan North High School. We will invite teams based on their performance for the 2025 game, just like would happen in the district model for the district championship moving forward. I don't know if we've decided on a number. I don't think it's going to be quite the 36, but Renee can chime in if they've gone, because I've been delinquent and not been able to attend those meetings. But keep an eye out for that. Save the date, put it on your schedule for your team if they qualify to compete at. Just a real fun little introduction into the district model of play in a small way. Do we want to talk, Renee, did you want to talk any more about this, or specifically, or the very generic moving to districts slide?
So yes, if you go backwards,
Yes, ma'am.
so we already have a couple of leads on interested high schools who are considering starting teams for the 2026 season. And so I would say that while we think we'll be at 4 district events, we may end up potentially being at 5. It's all dependent on the number of teams in the state and the average size of the events that you have. From a volunteer standpoint, I think that it would be nice to be able to stay at 4 district event qualifiers and a state championship in a season. But if needed, we can look at that 5th option as well. So that's one update. And then there were a number of updates in the California blog that had operational changes that were included. And so one of the interesting elements of that is potential changes with like the the regional point system that's coming out and how that might lead to cross-model play. And so I don't actually know what that looks like, but when I read the California announcement, that was one of the items that kind of jumped out in one of the comments. So that was a really interesting new update. So, and if you'd like to be involved in this process, which we would love to have you involved with this process. This is, we've been inviting people to get involved and engaged with this and setting up consistent calls and discussions. We have a form. We have 6 initiatives that we have set up to organize First Wisconsin moving forward. And so the competition committee, if you are interested in helping us create the schedule for the FTC and FRC season moving forward this next year, is where you would want to sign up to learn more. And so we'll go through those in a second. If you go back to the state championship slide, that'd be helpful. So the state championship, June 14th, First Wisconsin ordered and has had, plans to order for a while now, the field perimeter, so that we can bring that in state. So teams no longer have to work with Andy Marks to bring that field and then those game elements into the state to compete with the 3 to 5 off-season events that we have currently going on, which I think Greg, was going to share a little bit more about at some point.
Yes, I was, and I forgot to put that slide in. So, but we'll talk about it.
No, it's all good. That should also help the local community, either by reducing like costs for that specific event or potentially reducing costs for teams to register for those events. I think it just kind of depends on what that looks like. But it allows First Wisconsin to also test run the equipment and really gives us a chance to build that up before we move into official play in 2026. Now, I saw that Chris unmuted. So Chris, did you have something to add?
No, I just, you had talked about cross play. One of the points I did want to bring up with us going to the district model, that does open us up to be able to go to other districts to play. So if you wanted to go and do a third play, you can basically pay an additional and go to an event that has some openings in, say, Michigan or Indiana. You can also still sign up for regionals as well in other states. So there is opportunities for teams if you want more than just your 2 district points that'll count. But if you want an additional play up in Houghton or down in Indiana somewhere, there's definitely opportunities as we move to the district model we can go play in other districts. The points don't count, but you can still win banners. So.
We've gotten a few contacts from Michigan people and from Indiana people asking if we know our schedule, and I was like, it's too soon, everybody. What are you doing? But also that's what the competition committee will be working on. Did someone unmute? Oh, okay. Don't forget that we do have a raise hand feature.
Yep.
In terms of number of teams, typically I would say we need to run the schedule. is really the biggest piece of that. And so the idea would be that teams would be able to load in starting on Friday night. The maximum number of teams, we wouldn't go over 36. And I feel like 24 would probably be the lowest number we would be at, but we'll be somewhere between there. Again, we'll have additional information in a few weeks, but we wanted to make sure that you had this on your calendar because we will be sending out invitations once everyone completes your run of events from weeks 1 through 6, and then the whole state will be ranked and invitations will be sent out to the top teams to invite them to this event.
Yep.
So.
And quickly rattling off some of the off-season stuff because I did forget to put them in here. So Renee is right. Right now we have, if you include the unofficial 2025 First Wisconsin State Championship, 5 off-season events planned in the state right now. And so in calendar order, we have this one here on June 14th over in Sheboygan. Just announced today we have the Lakeshore Robotics Endurance Competition on June 28th and 29th. So it's a 24-hour competition. So if you're familiar with WV Rocks, where basically you just play matches for 24 hours straight and you have shifts of people that, obviously your kids need to sleep and your mentors need to sleep. And it's a real interesting kind of challenge. I know the teams that have gone to this other event out in, I don't even know where it is. Is it in, where is
West
that one?
Virginia.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. I know it's on that coast side, but have enjoyed it. Then we have, moving ahead a month, July 26th and 27th, we have MROC out in McWanago. That's the 2.5 day. It'll be very similar to the upcoming district events in schedule. After that, in August, we have the Leviathans. Boy, Aiden, I'm sorry. I don't know what LUR stands for. Leviathan Robotics Rampage?
Leviathan's Robotics Rampage, yeah.
Okay, good. Perfect. On August 16th, out at the Pablo Center in Eau Claire. So that was the first time that one ran. It was last year. It was out like at the Pablo Center is like a theater kind of setup, so it was really neat. You're playing on like a stage, and everyone's in like theater style seating, so that was really cool to play on. And then finally on October 11th, we have Twist robotics competition out in Muskego. That is the all-girls drive team focused event. Chris, if you want to give a 30-second blurb since you are here.
Yeah, so I mean, Twist all-girls drive team, but again, in the pits and everything like that, we'll probably run the same as we kind of did last year. Right now, we're looking at, we did 28 teams last year, or robots. I think we ended up with 31 teams with partner teams. I would say this year, because there was so much interest, we may be rolling out invitations to people that have been prior and then opening up to general registration. And we're looking to expand the number of teams, but we're waiting to kind of see where we're at. We're looking at our pit map and how we can fit the additional pits. So
are the unicorn costumes coming back?
The unicorn costume, we are planning to have the charity matches again. So again, look for the unicorn costumes. This time they'll be putting coral and trying to climb on deep cages. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we'll figure it out. So
there you go. So those are the 5 events that I'm aware of. If you have events that you are looking to run or planning on running or whatever, please reach out over Slack, or you can put them in chat here and I can note them down, or just email through the contact form on the First Inspires Wisconsin website, so that we can make sure we get that on the official calendar. All right, so now Renee is going to talk a little bit more about how to get involved in the First Wisconsin District.
Sounds good. All right, so this past year when we had open office hours at off-season events, when we did our town halls, virtual, in person, etc., and even in one-on-one discussions that I've had with mentors who use the Rendezvous with Renee feature in the e-newsletter. So if anyone would like to have a short meeting with me, we can get you a link to my booking page, and I would love to talk to you next week. But one of the things we kept hearing was, how do we get involved? You know, I've asked to help before, and I've never been engaged, and so I'm frustrated about that. So that was kind of the consistent thing that came up, and then also a desire for people who wanted to help, and not to call out like Austin Lee, but he was like, wait a second, you know, I am willing to meet with Renee for an hour every other week since June, in order to like build a stronger like connection and make sure that like the community's voices are heard. And so you know, just to call out Austin Lee, we enjoy working together, but that's kind of one of the things that came out of all of these different discussions. And so from that, and with this continued expansion of our nonprofit organization, there are 6 key initiatives that we started that we're using to organize efforts to expand program access, help sustain teams, and build the program overall so that we can truly achieve Sean Schuff's mission for every student, every program, everywhere in Wisconsin, because it's all about increasing that student access. So when you see here are the 6 different committees or initiatives that we've developed. The advocacy committee is already in place and has been functioning since 2019. We literally just had Advocacy Day yesterday. It was the largest event we hosted. There were over 250 people at the event. They scheduled more than 55 meetings. I think it was closer to 58. And they've talked to tons of different people, and so it was really impressive to be able to come to the capital. There we go. Wow. And see that take place. But so that's an example of what the advocacy committee does and has kind of put together. And these other 6 areas, or these other 5 areas, are the expansion of that. And so if we go to the next slide, I provided a little overview of each one just to try and provide like a quick hit of what do these groups do. And so that's some of the reason you've seen advocacy training support come out, or resource creation for training students on how do you talk about advocacy and increase access for people beyond your teams. As you can see, and as we mentioned earlier, the competition committee, defining event standards. So that's the place where, if there's an interest in saying at every, first Wisconsin event, we should be serving cheese curds to our volunteers, you're going to want to be on that committee because that is an event standard that we could implement locally. We're also going to, they're going to manage the overall bid process for scheduling purposes, and then support the logistics, making sure, our materials are going to be able to get to the events and be picked up from the events, etc. And then also just ensuring event quality. So really analyzing, the feedback we get from teams and looking for ways to improve. And then the engagement committee. So that's a new one that we haven't really discussed before, but no, we have discussed this one before. This is the one where we're looking for people who are social butterflies to work together and increase local networking and communication, because our main goal is to have more back and forth communication between First Wisconsin and our teams. That was, again, one of the things that we heard, with the town halls, and one of the reasons that, we essentially didn't submit any proposal or announce anything about these proposal elements because we were reflecting on what we heard. We wanted to make sure we really understood what was going on across the whole state. And so then, when the proposal was submitted in October, that was the time frame that kind of came about. And so really the idea is that is hands-on strengthening the local community and building bonds between teams. Next, All right. So the impact one is expanding event participation. And so the idea behind that is until you walk into any first event, you don't understand what the first program is about. So you see those NASCAR style pits, you see the kids getting excited, you see the robots competing, you know, these robots are flying around the field and that's great, but what does that actually mean? And so the idea there is, you know, groups that will work on inviting people to events, supporting program growth, and identifying workforce development, you know, partnerships, so that we can continue to retain our amazing students in our state and hopefully direct them to excellent colleges and keep them in Wisconsin. Marcoms is marketing and communication. I feel like that's, you know, a website assistance, being able to put together social media campaigns, really highlighting the mission of the program. You know, back in the day, I was much better at social media, but that's when I was on the thing called Twitter. And so nowadays, having support with that, you know, will be important so that we can clearly communicate the impact FIRST has on our students. And finally, the volunteer committee is where we will have volunteers, essentially like a senior head referee who helps us manage the head refs for the state, where they're able to look at the volunteer pipeline and analyze and identify potential people who could come up through the pipeline, and assist us with, you know, troubleshooting or handling any potential issues that come up there. And so with the volunteer committee and supporting some of those key roles, focusing on that recruitment, retention, and then also increased recognition, that will help building, you know, a stronger community in that area as well. So those are the key initiatives and how they tie into the nonprofit. So if we go to the next slide. Oh wait, I can totally see. Hang on.
Can you do this? Sorry, I can do it too. If you're checking.
Can I? Can I do it? I don't know.
Probably not. You probably can navigate for yourself.
I
Sorry.
can navigate for myself. That's
I'm
fine.
updating the slides as I realize I forgot to update some things. So we're going good. Keep going.
Okay. This is the explanation of the competition committee. So again, just kind of talking about the group that really helps us pull off these, you know, 5 FRC events and 10 to 12 FTC events in terms of making sure that the venue actually works. Are there stairs? You know, there is a set of 7 stairs at UW Stout that I really don't like. And that's one of the things that makes it a good potential district venue, but not a great regional venue. So in terms of specific needs, we will be looking for warehouse storage space. If, you know, Sheboygan North High School for the state championship is our test fit for our equipment, then we'll be shipping all of the materials from there to the mysterious warehouse storage space. We have a couple of options. We know the amount of space that we need. We have a you know, proposal that now we can share out since we have the approval and we can start rolling forward with our plans. So, but we need the competition committee to get them to get together and we'll move them forward from there. So next one. All right, so the engagement committee, the social butterflies. We have shared these slides before, and so in the, you know, future updates that Greg will share, you can look over that one. But really, it's this facilitation and local collaboration together. When I was the first senior mentor in Minnesota, you know, I drew circles on a map and figured out where the you know, team hubs were located, and essentially like started networking them all together and building that community. So we had piloted the Burnsville area team support, working alongside like Egan and a few of the other teams in that area, and it was fairly successful. My understanding is they still exist today and have even expanded beyond that. So the idea was to do the same thing here. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see if you got the picture. Nope, dang it. All right. So in terms of the engagement committee, unfortunately, we don't have Joe's, you know, wonderful face here for you to see because he recently volunteered at one of the other meetings that we had for the Lake Winnebago region. Oh, are you gonna?
Yeah, I was already going to do this anyway, so I might as well. You keep talking
cool.
though.
Cool. So yes. So between Austin, Ryan, and Joe, those three kind of representing that Seven Rivers Northwest region, Lake Winnebago area, those kind of three are going to start moving forward with the engagement committee plans. And so one of the big things that we'd like to do is have them facilitate the mentor roundtable meetings at the regional events. And so if the first project is inviting the community in and having discussions about what challenges you're facing and how can we solve them, then the second project is also like, how can we expand kickoff sites and make it easier for teams to pick up their kit of parts, come together as a community, and move forward from there. And so that's one of the reasons you saw in the Northwest region, you could attend a satellite kickoff at Chippewa Falls this year. And so that was a great little pilot we kind of figured out there, and we'd love to see more of that moving forward. But obviously I'm still missing representatives in a few different areas. And also, if anyone has better names for your regions, I am open to changing that. I just had to call it something so people knew what it was. All right. So I think those were the big updates. All right.
Yep. So then just from a more traditional perspective, a volunteer update here. So this slide, this is what I actually updated because it's gotten a lot smaller. This used to be a very busy slide, which is great news. But we always need volunteers for FRC. On this slide, I've listed some of the key volunteer roles, or they're not all key. The official score is technically not a key volunteer role, but I'll talk about it in a second. But I encourage you guys to talk to your mentors, to talk to your parents, to start signing up to volunteer. It's a great way to give back. It's a great way to participate at the, like for parents, to participate at the event without having to sit in the stands all day. For example, and we'll talk about the official scorer role here. For if you've got parents that have, good attention to detail, this year every event needs 5 official scorers, and those will be the people that stand next to the referees and count how many coral are on the reef and how many of the algae end up in the net. That's all they got to do is they sit there and they say, okay, there's a coral there now, there's an algae there now. They don't need any other knowledge about the game. They just have to have a general not be afraid of robots as they fly past them, and yeah, have a good attention to detail. So it's a great one for parents who, maybe want to watch their kids' games, watch their kids' matches, but still give back. Official score, you're not going to get any closer to the field than that. Otherwise, judges are the common denominator here. We need judges at all of our events. Judges, this is the only one that's unfortunately like we would prefer, and right now we are asking that you do not have your team at the event you are judging at. So for teams that are only going to Phantom or only going to Wisco, I talk about those because they're like 10 miles apart. Consider judging at the other one. So if you're going to Phantom, consider judging at Wisconsin the next week. Judging is a great way, just like in FLL. We tell FLL coaches all the time that if they want to know how the judging process works and how their team can do better, they should go judge an FLL tournament. The same kind of applies for FRC. If you want to know how the judging system works, which has gotten a lot less opaque the last couple of years, but is still kind of like a cloudy mystery for those of us that aren't in that room. Signing up to judge is the best way to get firsthand knowledge of what kinds of questions the judges are going to ask and how they deliberate, what they care about. Judge advisor for Phantom and Seven Rivers, Kristen Flickinger was on the FRC mentor call 2 weeks ago, and I will upload that video after this one, where she talked about some of like the tips and some more of those details about judging. But this is going to be the best way you can. So sign up to judge. And then robot inspectors, we need those at Phantom at Wisco. That's a great one for your technical mentors to do just on Thursday. Thursday is practice day. I guess I should say just on practice day, because technically Wisconsin is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So this will be Friday. Practice day, you can sign up to inspect, and then the other 2 days of the competition, you can be with your team. Practice day, as if you are a mentor during in the thick of competition, you know that inspection is most important that day. So please sign up. We are looking to get like 10 to 15 inspectors at every event so that practice day goes smoothly for all of our teams, because ultimately a robot inspector has a phenomenal effect on a team's experience, and we want them to have a good, positive experience. So please.
Also, speaking of robot inspectors, I have found that if you go back through your, first alumni, recent graduates, so maybe, college students or, even out of college students, if there are any, contacts who have mechanical background or experience or have a strong programming and electrical experience, those are great contacts to engage with. When I was in Indiana and able to focus on, growing in some different areas, one of the things that I worked on was, you know, reminding like seniors in high school, young women on the teams that they can always come back next year as freshmen and robot inspect. And so that was kind of a core area that we tried to see some additional, engagement and growth around. And so that would be my recommendation. If you can think of any of those, mechanically minded individuals who would be willing to come back and participate in that role, that's a great way to look at that.
Yep, alumni are a wonderful source that we are trying to tap into more. So if you've got alumni that have want to robot inspect, that's a wonderful place. Obviously, a very direct go robot inspect. But if you have alumni that maybe really enjoyed reffing at FLL while they were on your team, and maybe considering reffing at the FRC level, this year is a great opportunity with the official scorer role, because it essentially doubles the amount of people we need that are in ref-like positions. They won't be making calls and like giving penalties, so it's a nice, like I said, that's part of why it's nice for parents as well. But if you have alumni that may want to ref in the future, here's a great way to get started, is signing up as an official scorer. And then field reset, field assembly. There's a bunch of other roles that I don't have listed in here that aren't as technical. Safety glasses stands, people to help man the quiet room for a couple shifts during the day, so that we can, again, it's all about giving our students a positive experience. And so the quiet room is very important to some individuals. When they need it, they need it. So giving them that experience. So go to your First Inspires dashboard and click the volunteer tab. I just found that apparently I'm behind the game. We now have QR codes that will directly link you right to the event. And I was told these were going to happen, and then they told me they weren't. And I'm sitting here looking like I found them. So I'm sure we will send those out at some point. Renee is embarrassed for me right now. I can see it.
No, I'm not. No, I was just really excited because they went live like a week ago, and we had already been using it for FTC State, so I just feel bad that you didn't get that update.
Busy time of year.
It is.
No, it's fine. So we will, as things get more dire, like I suspect, and I'm seeing right here, I can send QR codes specifically for roles. So I bet you we're going to have emails with QR codes saying judge at this event and that kind of stuff. So watch for those, but encourage your teams, encourage your families. As we transition to a district model, like I said at the beginning, community becomes one of the most important things we can build. So volunteering is one of those pillars. Okay. And this is not the QR code I was talking about. Here's a QR code that's a couple months old and way more boring than the new ones. Yeah, so Rena had a comment here. When I volunteered, I was told I probably wouldn't be used because I couldn't give more time during the day than a few hours. So certain roles do need to be there the whole time. So like, I'm going to go into like reffing, you need to be there, right? I'm not saying you sign up for reffing. If you can only be there for like half the day, there are roles exactly like the less glamorous roles, I'll call them. So you're not wearing a yellow hat necessarily, though if you can only be there Thursday, again, yellow hat robot inspector is a great one. But traditionally, or not traditionally, historically, the roles like the quiet room are very hard to fill because you're away from the matches. But we do try to fill those just in shifts so that you're not sitting there for 4 hours unless you really, really want to be. So if you can only sign up for half a day and want to help out in something like that, At Wisconsin, historically, this is like the quiet room, the welcome table, the safety glasses stands. We kind of rotate those three, and we take anybody that can be there for a couple hours. And often, because they're so hard to fill, we end up taking a bunch of like walk-on students for things like the safety glasses stands. But yes, yeah. So if you run into trouble like that again, please reach out and we can figure out what's going on and how to get you involved, because we want to get individuals involved and spread the volunteering across so it's not just put on like 10 people. Okay, what's my next slide here? Oh, this is the fun one. Okay, and we're 40 minutes in, and here's a fun one. Okay. Renee, do you want me just to pull up the paper, or do you
Sure.
want to? Okay, you start while I present.
Deal. So you did a good job though at like highlighting the hotbeds, so that I think is really important. So in terms of identifying locations for events and the bid process, one of the things that we just released and opened up is kind of like the first run through and check through for the intent to bid. And what that basically means is that, you know, it's a 3-phase process. So the first phase is figure out who's interested in potentially hosting an event and get the like go or no go on, you know, are you looking at FRC, FTC, etc. The idea behind that is kind of like if you have 2 gymnasiums on different floors, without like a cafeteria next to one of those gymnasiums, that might not work for a FRC event, and that's okay, but it could be a great FTC event. The choice to have these events, you know, in these various areas is up to, you know, a little bit to the community, but also to the competition committee. And so really what we're going to be doing is looking at locations. You know, ideally we'd have 3 to 4 in the different corners of the state that we would be able to seed the events in those areas. At that point, once you get the, you know, request for information and all of those different elements put together, so close. Darn.
It's trying. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
We'll go back here while this loads, I
Okay.
guess.
And so if you submit the intent to bid form, basically what you're, you know, filling out and explaining is, you know, this is my basic venue information. Here's who I would be looking to engage with this process. And then, you know, asking any questions there is incredibly helpful. There's information on, you know, what the phase 2 would look like, which is really that larger like request for proposal. And so that's where, you know, that's weird. You can go work on that. So once you receive that request for proposal document, that's where things like maps, like the full committee roles that we'd be looking to engage with the community would be available. And so, you know, I've run this process in the past. The nice thing about it is that you are able to identify additional sites that you wouldn't necessarily know about because you're working with people in the local community versus like a third party event planning, you know, organization. And so, you know, this is one of the elements where there's more community engagement and there is more ownership within the state for those specific event pieces. And then, you know, once RFPs come in, they're due by May 15th of 2025. Site selection would then take place. It may involve a site visit to the venue with members of the competition committee to do a walkthrough and determine, you know, is this the best experience we can provide to our teams and students? And so the rest of the document lays out things like venue requirements. And so we wanted to make sure you weren't walking into the document blind. And so you kind of knew what we were looking for on the basic point of view, what the scheduling requirements were, since I had a couple of people let me know that, you know, trying to do unloading in the afternoon or evening the day before your official setup day is confusing. And so I had to provide the day 0, you know, schedule, and then also explain the FTC style schedule as well. The volunteer requirements, and so these are the planning committee members. It's the first time you would see things like a hospitality coordinator, the facility coordinator, a couple different elements. The volunteer coordinator is familiar, and the committee chair is familiar from the point of view of we've had RPCs or tournament directors in the past. The show and production lead is an extension of the event manager role and is actually a really great role for first alumni, recent graduates, etc. And so the idea is how can you add or enhance the show and production side of the event, and your students again get a chance to take on and build those show and production skills. So that's kind of an exciting element. The community coordinator engages with the community development committee member. They essentially become part of the First Wisconsin Development Committee, and they look for opportunities around the event to engage. A lot of times things like community organizations or the community foundations, they're excited to have events coming into their areas and they want to support events in their areas. The idea is that we come into an area and we extend opportunities for teams. Like, we're not there to take funding away from teams. We are there to access funding that teams wouldn't necessarily have access to, while also raising awareness and gaining additional excitement around the program and those opportunities. Because again, when people walk in and see these kids, that's when they really understand what the program's about. Yes, yep. It's open to schools, post-secondary institutions, business spaces, the Lacrosse Community Center. Just like we will be following up with the Lacrosse Community Center, Expo Center, and asking them what is available in future seasons, because that is a fantastic venue and we would like to continue working with them. In terms of funding considerations, there are potential costs associated with the event, things like, bleacher rental or janitorial costs. Are there in-kind donations? So because we are partnering with your team, does it essentially mean that this is a, event that is co-hosted in partnership with the team? And so you have limited costs around things like, facility rental and stuff like that. So
I'm gonna quick test the link here to make sure, because I think I tested it earlier, Renee, and it was fine. But if I open this, it's asking you to log into Microsoft. Oh, look at that. It's asking me to too. Let me try. So I think the link in the blog had, I will scroll down so you can keep going, and I'm going to check the other link, Jerry.
thank you. This explains some of the First Tech Challenge event types. So, if people aren't familiar, there's actually different models of play for First Tech Challenge as well. Currently, we run qualifying tournaments. As population density increases, there could be an option to look at league meets. We'll see where that ends up. But a lot of that, it would be driven around things like, in MPS, league meets may be a better between the bells competition model than, busing students to qualifying tournaments on Saturdays. And so that's kind of one of the driving examples of that. You could also potentially run a league meet between, UW Stout and Western Technical College, because the league meets are things that can be set up very quickly and torn down, or you could leave a field up and then, return to that same field as a cool, reference point, because it's a little bit easier to run these smaller events that need things like referees, one MC, scorers, etc. So it's not the full day production and full day, judging elements that people have needed in the past. So that's First Tech Challenge.
Yeah, sorry. I think
No problem.
Renee, we'll need to fix the link, but that's fine.
And yep. And then the intent to, so like the projected event calendar for FTC, we have some information there that talks a little bit about that. If there are FRC teams that wanted to look at potentially doing league meets that only run in the fall time frame and it ends in a, league championship, before the end of the semester, like that is something that we could consider. So if we keep going, that's FTC. Moving along to FRC, we have the 2026 event calendar. I also heard that there are potential venues where you need to book it more than a year in advance. So at the very top of the page, it says, I would love to be able to coordinate event locations multiple years in advance. And so I provided the FY27 event calendar as well, which was provided to me by FIRST headquarters.
Neat. Yeah. So we will go in and probably just change the permissions on that form. Hopefully that'll just #just work.
All right, I'd try again.
Try again.
Yep,
All right.
refresh.
I'm trying right now here. I'm going to scroll up. Let's see what happens. Where is it? Where is it? Intent to bid. Hey, there we go. All right. So that link should work for you guys now. Thank you, Jerry, for testing it for us.
Much
tested-
appreciated.
We test in production. It's okay. All right. So, yep, go talk with your schools and your communities. And I believe we said here basically till April 8th is when the deadline for filling out that intent to bid form. So, like I
Yeah.
had.
And
Go
a
ahead.
key
Go,
term there
Chris.
is rolling basis. So if somebody submits a request for information, if they submit that earlier, we may be approaching teams earlier to assess your venues, depending on the information we get. So if you get those in sooner, we're going to be basically assessing them as they come in and go from there.
Yep. The idea behind the RFP is to make sure that we're getting it to you so you have plenty of time to work through it. And so the deadline that we put on the table was February 21st is the first time we would send out, the RFP. So you can take a look at what that looks like as well.
Yep. And
Okay.
then just to put this back up here, again, we're looking all across the state for hotbeds of teams that we've outlined. Southeast, Northeast, La Crosse, and then like Chippewa area north of La Crosse are the key ones. We're trying to spread these out as much as we can. So please, if you're in one of those areas, submit. You all should be. Almost all of you should be. But yes, even if you're not, submit. Okay.
Yep.
I think that leaves us to the last slide, which is questions. So at this point, open mic, raise your hand, use the chat. You've got questions, comments, concerns. Awesome.
I'll start you guys off.
There we go.
So can you guys go over the registration costs for a district versus the regional model that everybody's familiar with? Just so that people are aware of how that currently works and the plays and whatnot, so that everybody's up to speed.
Yep. Yes, we can do that. And so instead of, I don't have any graphics for you, so I'm going to rattle it off. And if you need me to like write it down, I can do that. Yes.
Go for it. I'm going to try and find the thingy so that while you talk.
Good. So Aiden, yes, but there will be, like, from the RFP point of view, it will be a higher requirement and standard that we'd be engaging in. So like, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of cold sparks machines, or if anyone has seen videos of the provincial championship out over in Ontario, like that's the level of engagement and excitement we want to see at a state championship style event. So Greg has pulled up the information. So basically, when teams register, as you would normally in the November timeframe, it's $6,000, and you will then be attending 2 district events. You don't have to attend 2 district events. You could attend 1 district event and opt out of a second. That's fine. However, at these district events, they're shorter, so they're 2.5-day events, very similar to the Phantom Lake schedule that's being run. And you are guaranteed, because of the size and the way you run the schedule, 12 matches at each of those events. And so what you will find is your robots will become more robust because of the sheer number of matches that that robot will be going through. After that, if you would like to play in Indiana and travel, down there to compete either outside of other regions or even inside Wisconsin as a third play, you can pay $1,000 and go get another 12 matches to compete with. You don't earn points past your 2 events, but you can earn awards that could potentially qualify you for the state championship if you're competing in third place in Wisconsin. When you go to a different district, you wouldn't be able to earn things like the engineering inspiration or impact awards. In terms of the district championship, so we have 70 teams in the state currently. Half of the teams would advance to the state championship. So let's say that's 36 teams, because it's a nice round number of 6, so we can not have surrogate plays. And so if that's the case where you advance, you're one of the 36 teams that advances to the district championship, then you would pay $4,000 to go to this district championship, which would run in a schedule that would be the same as a general regional time frame. Again, the ability to host the district championship and the size of the district championship is dependent on the number of teams in the state. And so once we get to like 84 teams, that's when you would see a 42 team district championship. And that's kind of how those different elements work. You'll see the first championship prices are the same. And those are really the different options from there.
It's even cheaper if you want to go to Michigan. Or is this in district? So, okay. In district. Sorry, never mind. We can't go to Michigan and pay $500. Inter-district. Cool.
Mhm.
Other hands. If you guys come up with questions later that you want to ask, you can either, we have the, yep, Nick's
that's
got a
smart.
great point. Yeah, we can go through those in hashtag a moment. Use the First Wisconsin Mentor Slack, and you can either ask just in general, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people to answer. You can DM Renee, myself, Chris, any mentor that you think has the answer. I don't think anyone's going to tell you to stop talking to them, so please do. And then, yeah, so Nick has a great point. The district stuff kind of overshadowed some of the upcoming deadlines. So Woody's and Dean's is due tomorrow, which really means probably submit it tonight, because I think it's due like 11 a.m. Central or something weird in the middle of the day for us, which is do it tonight, submit it tonight. And then Impact is due, I believe, next week on the 12th.
Greg,
Three.
the awards
3
are due
p.m.
at 2
Eastern
p.m.
time.
Yeah, okay, so 1
2
p.m.
p.m.
Sorry,
Central.
2 p.m. Either way, middle of the day, do it tonight.
Yep.
Especially if you start running into issues, just do it tonight. Everybody do it tonight. My
Yep.
team, you're listening to me, do it tonight. Ellery, go do it. Submit it. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. I think that sounds good. So, Greg, why don't we leave this open, and then if you want to close off the recording. I think that would be helpful. But then we can stay a little bit longer if there are specific questions that people have that they wanted to go through, but maybe didn't want people to hear like the rambling different
Yep.
questions that they have. So
I can go ahead and stop the recording here.
Yep. It's like
Bye.
I'm on Chief Delphi, I'm on Reddit. I've seen, some of the